This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking player housing, and specifically we are talking decor and how it will interact with professions, achievements, and other gameplay, all detailed in the new Blizzard Blue post that came out at the end of this week. Pretty much as late as it could possibly have come out at the end of this week, but that's fine, that's absolutely fine. And I'm not going to bury the lead on this one, okay? Because the reason this is worth making a whole video on is because it's good. It's very good. When the first housing post a couple of months ago told us that housing would work in a neighborhood system, it was like, oh wow, not what I was expecting, but that's a lot of interesting potential there, okay. And then a month later, when the decor placement and interior design post came out, it was like, oh wow, this is way better than I think anyone expected. I think this is when players started to take player housing seriously as a feature, because what was on show here really embodied the absolute best case scenario. And this latest reveal and what it tells us about professions and collections is right up there too, in being an almost best case scenario minus just one little thing. But there is still plenty to get excited and relieved about here. So join us as we talk WoW player housing, decor, collections, and professions. Okay, go, 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 go. So we've seen how you decorate the interior of your home. This post explains to us the philosophy behind how we get all that stuff to decorate with. The usual caveat that this is a work in progress and could change at any time, but the basics is this. Decor items will come from numerous different sources. In fact, just about as many sources as there are ways to play the game. Straight buying from a vendor with certain reputation requirements. Crafting with professions, buying from the auction house from players that have crafted them with professions, but also from solo questing, dungeons, raids, and achievement rewards. They don't mention the trading post or the online cash shop for that matter, but you know, they don't really have to mention the cash shop, do they? And we'll look at some examples of those different sources in just a moment, but what I want to say straight off the bat is, yes, good. This is exactly the correct approach, in that it's very easy to compare decor collection to mount or transmog collection. So if you really care about transmogs and mounts, you can go out of your way to collect them, even the really obnoxious to get ones. And then you're going to have a vast collection of incredible items, many of which are very rare and hard to get, and which will be the envy of all your friends. But even if you don't care about mounts and transmogs and never set out to get any at all, you probably still have a pretty good collection. A whole ton of different looks and options to choose from. You probably still have one or two absolute rare gems in there, almost by accident because you play the game a lot. For example, I have never done a pet battle in my entire life. I watched a Hazel stream once and she was doing a pet battle and I literally thought she was playing a different game because I'd never seen a pet battle UI before. I still have 526 battle pets in my collection. And so that's what it looks like Blizz are going for here with decor too. Loads of stuff that is difficult or time consuming to get and that you'll have to go out of your way to get, but alongside that, a huge range of stuff that everyone will find they have access to right from the start. Blizzard separate decor into three main tiers to show this. Tier 1 is commodities, and these are your basic things like wooden chairs or tables or bookcases, the things you'd expect to be part of any player housing system. And it sounds like there will be an extensive range of these available from day one to buy from vendors or crafters. It's worth noting here that every item that exists in your house is individual. If you want 4 of the same chair around the table, you have to buy or craft 4 of those chairs, and every single one of those chairs will be stored in your account-wide house chest, which can be accessed by any of your characters, but they are all still individual items. So if you have 4 chairs in your house chest and your Nightborn mage puts 3 of them in her house, even though she lives alone and never invites anyone round, then there will only be 1 chair left in your house chest when your human paladin, who has loads of friends, comes to decorate his house. Blizzard show a visual example in the post. We see Captain Lagacy, the Stormwind quartermaster who exists in the game right now, selling her usual cloaks and tabards, and this isn't important, okay, but who has been standing at a really weird angle for like the last 20 years. Like seriously, Lagacy, just take 1 step forward or backward. Let that poor 3-poly horse stand on even ground, please. Anyway, yeah, Lagacy is selling the Stormwind Hall rug at a very reasonable 142 gold. But you need to be revered with Stormwind to buy it. So a very low gold cost, but with a reputation requirement attached. And I would imagine there are going to be tons of NPCs in the game, just like Lagacy, who on the day player housing goes live, suddenly find themselves with a housing decor item in their inventory that they can sell you. And yeah, I'm sure we're all revered with Stormwind, but there might be some legacy reputations that you do need to bump up a little bit to buy stuff too. I'm assuming the rug in question is this standard floor rug that you see all across Stormwind, which shows you just how willing Blizzard are to tap into all those existing classic assets right from the start, which is correct. That's exactly what they should do. Is it possible that a different NPC in Stormwind sells the red version, or the bear version, or the inn version? Is there going to be a crazy time when player housing launches of people running around discovering decor items that have been added to completely random NPCs all across the old world? Well, I hope so. That sounds really cool and fun. Although maybe very annoying too. Don't forget, I have to buy one individual rug for every rug that I use in every one of my characters' houses. If one day I turn around and I've used up all my rugs or all my bookcases that I bought from Bob the Farmer in Elwyn or whatever, suddenly that decentralization of vendors all over the place is going to get old very, very quickly. And if that's the case, it's probably going to encourage players to buy huge amounts of every item every time they visit each individual vendor, just in case. It's not just vendors though. Blizzard give questing as another example of how you'll get hold of commodity items. They mention, for example, getting a certain jade inlaid bookcase from a certain questline in Pandaria. And I'm assuming that this would be an example of one of their retroactive rewards, like achievements. Some of you have been playing for 20 years, and we want that time to feel worthwhile. Your past adventures and time spent in Azeroth means your collection will have a leg up, and you won't start from square one when you first purchase a house. And that's awesome, isn't it? It's another way that players will have a great collection of stuff on the first day of housing, while also potentially having loads of past quests and content that players will be encouraged to go back and do if they haven't. But it does raise an important question as well, which I don't think is answered in this post. I just mentioned how commodities are individual items. You need to buy 4 chairs to place 4 chairs in a house, blah de blah. Well, how does that work for quest rewards? I mean, you're not going to go back and do that quest again every time you need another jade bookcase, are you? So what? Is it basically a unique item that you'll only be able to place in one position at a time? Or will that same bookcase be the reward from like 15 different quests around Pandaria, which means you'll have lots of them if you want, but still a finite amount that cannot be increased beyond a certain point? Or will the quest NPC become a vendor of the item once you hand the quest in and get the reward the first time? That seems the most likely, and again, is going to result in individual vendors all over the world with this stuff, which might mean you having to check Wowhead literally every time you need to remember where a certain item you want to buy actually comes from. But overall, I think this is terrific and basically exactly as it should be. Old assets being repurposed, creating destinations for players to visit, quests to finish. This is very good. Lots of those commodity items are going to be from crafting too. We'll get onto that in a minute. Tier 2 of decor that Blizz describe is investment decor. This is the stuff that they call more niche items. The example they give is a fountain with particle effects or a magical book flying about the place. A bit more gold or time investment. From a crafting point of view, this might mean that they need harder to get materials to craft. Maybe a more niche reputation than, Stormwind. Maybe a zone or Loremaster meta achievement. And maybe we are now into the world of loot drops. Blizz give a visual example in their post of an Argusian crate dropping from the final boss of the Seat of the Triumvirate dungeon. Just there, on her loot table with the armor and rings. And yeah, okay, so I'm not sure if the Argusian crate would really fit the description of an investment item. It's incredibly basic, has no particle effects or animation, but also, how is that going to work with the finite placement? Do I have to go and kill this boss every time I need another Argusian crate? Because I will, Blizz. I will kill the shit out of Lura. I bloody love that crate. Later in the post, Blizzard answer by saying they kind of don't know exactly how this is going to work yet. They say that they definitely don't want this to be like the equivalent of mount or transmog farming, where you chain run legacy content weekly in the hope of finally getting the drop this time. So perhaps these will be guaranteed or near guaranteed drops. The post mentions the possibility of only having items available when the bosses are in time walking, which sounds like it could maybe be a terrible idea. But then using the Seat of the Triumvirate as their example would be an interesting interesting choice in that case, because housing is going to launch during Season 3 of The War Within, and most people expect Seat of the Triumvirate to be a returning legacy dungeon in Season 3. At the very least, Legion Remix is going to pop up not long after housing. Put that one in the waiting for more clarification category. But in theory, I like it. As we've said, having a reason to go back to old content is good. The third tier of decor is what Blizz call trophies, which kind of speaks for itself. This is your Onyxia head on the wall, maybe an artifact or certain transmog that you can display. And these are the decorations that require, quote, skillful play, cooperation with other players, or long-term achievements. The Onyxia head specifically is tied to the More Dots achievement, which I don't actually have. Hang on. Okay, I just got my More Dots achievement, and I'd be lying if I said it involved skillful play, cooperation with other players, or long-term achievements. I just went in, it took a couple of minutes, I've got the achievement now, the Onyxia head is mine. They mention Mythic Plus or Raid rewards, which I'm thinking are likely to be glory achievements. Maybe you could get Gallywix's top hat to display after defeating Mythic Undermine, but it's not hard to imagine actual trophies being on offer here too, say for Mythic Plus or PvP seasonal achievements. Imagine a literal trophy cabinet displaying your Keystone Legend or Gladiator awards. And Blizz have said that all of these things are an ongoing project. Whatever is available at launch is not the full picture. More will be added, even from legacy content in future patches. So if your favourite Suramar bench isn't available as a player housing item at launch, it likely will be eventually. And that goes for all of these methods of decor acquisition, including crafting. And now it's time to talk about crafting in professions, because it is simultaneously everything we hoped it would be, albeit with one big disappointment. Oh, first this.
Hey crew, it's April already. 1/4 of 2025 is now behind us. And through all of that, Squarespace has been there. Thanks for sponsoring today's video, guys. You're the best. They're always updating their offer to make sure you're getting the absolute best website building experience out there. My favorite way to do this is via the humble blank page. You know about all the fancy templates already. Let's start with a new section. There's your usual fare like charts, about, contact. Wait, charts? Step aside, Excel. Move along, sheets, because I can flip the X and the Y axes on my Squarespace site and use a snazzy color template. Primary? Tea party? I say we go with cool because that's exactly what this is. I can add a block and I see all the usual suspects. And I see you there too, charts. But check out these integrations. Talk? No idea what that is. Bands in town? Awesome. Presumably this is my tour schedule, which rules. Actually, let me put us in there. Oh, never mind. Well, it's something to work on. And finally, let's go wild with one more block. Now, I feel like I haven't seen an actual tag cloud for at least 10 years, so let's do this one for the nostalgia value. Handmade, portrait, pro tip, theories, things to do. That is a very generic tag cloud. Let's see what happens if we up the tag count. 42 sounds good. Okay, we've added art, cats, and yummy. Now I know I could generate this using actual tags from my own posts, but why would I do that when I can enjoy this? I want that joy for you. Just head to squarespace.com/Taliesin, where you can get 10% off your first purchase of a Squarespace website or domain. You can use code Taliesin to get the same. Get in there and find all the features to delight and inspire you. That's squarespace.com/Taliesin.
Okay, so the very, very good news is that all professions will be able to get involved in player housing decor, and all professions will be able to craft items from across every expansion, which is exactly what we needed to hear. An example they give is the Brill Coffin, which is an inscription craft. So to craft this coffin, players are going to need the recipe, which likely will only be available from Tirisfal Glades or the surrounding zones, either as a drop or purchased from a trainer. They are going to need the appropriate level on their classic inscription profession, which, oh shit, some of you have some expansion-specific profession leveling in your future. To craft Pandaria items, you're going to need to level the Pandaria version of the skill, etc. Oh, and by the way, this being the case, someone is now finally going to have to go back and sort out the Warlords of Draenor professions, okay? Because there is some disgusting time gating in that shit, which is not okay in modern WoW. You're going to need to gather reagents from that expansion too. For the coffin, you're going to need sorrow moss and iron bars, but also each legacy craft will need a new decor-specific ingredient. In this case, ironwood lumber. More on that in a minute. And this is great. I love this so much, and it is exactly what I hoped it would be, getting players to go out into the old world and past expansions, gathering materials, either to craft a bunch of cool stuff and put it on the auction house, or more likely, I'd imagine, to commission a crafter to make it for you through work orders. This is player housing facilitating and boosting professions in the exact way only player housing could. Imagine how happy you're going to be wandering around Grizzly Hills, getting the deer hides you need for your amber pine wall hanging. Imagine the bliss you're going to feel herbing in Pandaria to make your cool little potted bonsai plant thing. It's easy to imagine how most stuff like the coffin will be relatively straightforward to make, as we can see, but I bet you there's investment pieces that have relatively very difficult mats to get, like maybe stuff from raids. And this is exactly what I was hoping for when it came to professions and housing. This is, like the placement options last video, a best case scenario, in my opinion. However, one hope that appears to have been dashed though, which I think people will be very disappointed by, decor will be crafted by all existing non-gathering primary professions, instead of creating a new profession solely dedicated to it. This has been read by many people to mean that there will be no new profession introduced for housing. I know loads of people were hoping for a carpenter or woodworker type thing, or a lumberjack gathering profession, because calmly chopping down trees in Grizzly Hills at sunset is literally heaven. That's literally how I wish to spend my life, please. And while the wording of this section doesn't rule out a new profession by any means, you kind of feel like this is where they would have mentioned it if they were planning a new profession. So yeah, looks like Inscription will be taking on a lot of carpentry work, doesn't it? If this is true, I think it's a big missed opportunity. And although I am very happy for the promise that all professions will be able to take part in decor, this is the bit that I am disappointed with. Although, remember those new decor specific reagents that you'll need along with old ingredients to make the legacy crafts? The Brill Coffin asks for ironwood lumber, and that definitely does sound like something a lumberjacking or woodworking profession would be required to gather, doesn't it? Maybe the dream is still alive after all. Am I doing full-on copium right now? There are just a couple of miscellaneous points and clarifications at the end of this post, including the idea of neighborhood-specific activities being part of whatever player housing progression looks like. My personal hope is still that this is the unlocking and building of public spaces in player neighborhoods. The idea of everyone coming together to build like a tavern, which the residents of the neighborhood can then hang out in, and which would become the de facto guild hall in private guild neighborhoods, is just too tantalizing to resist. I'm hoping that may be the next post's topic, along with general exteriors info. And I know we already covered the finite nature of housing items earlier, but the wording of this bit. If you have 4 fountains and place 3 of them on the lawn of your alliance house, your horde house will have only 1 available to place. This makes it sound like you will in fact be limited to 1 horde house and 1 alliance house per warband, as opposed to say 1 individual house in its own neighborhood per character on your account. This is something that the burgeoning WoW player housing community have been discussing at length, and I've always said that I thought, no, each character would be able to have a home of their own, and this could just be misleadingly worded, but I've kind of changed my mind now. I'm thinking it will indeed be just 1 house per faction. Another thing we're going to have to wait tentatively to get an answer on. But my overall conclusion here is that I am relieved and excited because Decor Collection is doing everything I hoped it should do. Having a wide range of stuff accessible to everyone instantly, but beyond that, sending players out into the world, into old content, collecting old reagents and achievements, allowing players to breathe new life into all that old content is just brilliant. And honestly, so far Blizz is hitting every single button when it comes to player housing. I like it more with everything I learn about it, and I know that we're all still waiting to see how Blizz completely dick this up, but it appears that that won't be through decor and professions, at least. But what do you think? Does this part of housing land where you were hoping, or have your dreams been dashed completely? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today for this video that is way longer than I thought it was going to be. If you liked it, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And patrons, thank you, because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evertel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Evozor. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evertel. Until next time, cheerio.